if you are a first generation immigrant or you're a mom and you've wondered if you can actually scale a business to 7 figures because you just have so much going on, or you think, and I'll say you think because it's a limiting belief, that you have all the odds against you. Well, I want to prove you guys wrong today by sharing Diane's story, because she is a child of first generation immigrants. She's a mom to 2, and she's super active in her community, serving on nonprofit charity like events and boards, helping empower women. And we are kindred spirits in that regard, that we love to empower women and see more women scale their business to 7 figures, which is why I'm sharing these stories, to show you guys that it is possible, and people like us, people who are immigrants, people who are minorities, and we can do it. So Diane, thank you so much for making time and being here with us today, being here with me today. I'd love to start just by the beginning, right? You said a little bit earlier when we were chatting that your parents immigrated from Greece, but you were born in Canada, and you have a 7-figure business. Obviously, we met through EL. How did you scale that? Was this your first business venture? Did you have a career first before you started your business? I know some people have a 5-10 year career in banking and then go into business ownership, or other people, maybe they failed at 1, 2, or 3 businesses before they had their 7-figure business. I'm one of those. I had 2 failed businesses before I had my 7-figure one. So love to hear your origin story of that journey to 7 figures revenue in a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so thrilled to meet you, Cathey, and I'm thrilled to be here and to kind of share my story. And so my background is I went to school, as I said, I'm second person to graduate university in my family. My older sister was the first. My parents were general laborers. My dad's an electrician. Went to trade school. Finished high school here in Canada, and went to trade school immediately. They worked really, really hard. We're very, very lucky to be able, by both my sisters and I, very lucky to be able to reap the benefits of their hard work. And I think they instilled a lot of that work ethic into us. So by background, I'm a chemist and a metallurgist. I started work in a very male-dominated industry. I went into steel making. Worked for one of the large steel manufacturers in steel making here in Hamilton, Ontario. Was very lucky enough to get huge experience from that. Was there about 7 or 8 years. Was actually on a patent as well. So I'm a inventor on a patent that was later sold to friends of mine who are actually commercially producing that product, which is super exciting to see that as well. From there, I started consulting in my field that I'm in right now, and I was doing that as an independent contractor for another firm for a number of years, and really loved it. So from being a chemist and being in that really science and very male-dominated industry, going into kind of consulting, research tax credits is kind of where I ended up finding my way into. Was really cool. And then 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to start and branch out and start DST Advisory Group, which is my firm. We were really lucky to be able to have clients that were able to come along and trust us. And over the past 7 years, we've grown the firm into 7 figures, which has been really fun. And we've got such a great bunch of people working for us. We've got an amazing team. And it's been a difficult 7 years, ups and downs, as most entrepreneurs can appreciate. And every year you kind of focus on you kind of triage is the way I've been describing it lately. You focus on different avenues and things you want to kind of address. We focused on people, we focused on our processes on the operation side. And you focus on your marketing strategies, you focus on your sales strategies. And as entrepreneurs, you don't really go to school to become a business person. You don't really know, that these are the things you need to learn. And you kind of evolve as an individual, as a professional. And I think that's kind of one of the great things about EO and the people that you meet, and the exposure and the learnings that you are exposed to and able to partake in. It's just really fun. And you learn a lot and you grow a lot. So, so that's kind of my origin story. So, and here we are, and the sky's the limit because we're still learning and we're still growing. And that allows me to kind of give back to my community and really help others succeed as well as a leader.
I love that. Yeah. And then I wanted to ask too, because you mentioned, it's kind of a male dominated industry, right? So how or why did you decide to go into this industry versus something that might not be as male dominated? And did you feel like there were other challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, so in the tax world, it's probably a little bit less male dominated than it was in the steelmaking world. Steelmaking world, when I first started there, I was like 21 years old, right out of university, and I think the average age was 92% male dominated, and the average age was like 57 years old. I stuck out like a sore thumb. In the tax industry now, it's a little bit more balanced, and I've got a few more gray hairs now, so I'm no longer that 21-year-old going into this industry. So it's a lot easy. It's easier in that way. It's a little bit challenging. Again, I'm sticking out a little bit in this area because I'm not a tax professional. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm coming in as a chemist. I'm coming in as a scientist. I'm coming in with that STEM mentality, which is kind of my purple cow. For those of you who've read, Seth Godin's Purple Cow, that's kind of my purple cow. Yeah. So if you haven't read it, totally recommend it. It's a great book. And we actually talked about that on my forum retreat. We had that a big discussion around that, where that's what makes us unique. My firm makes our firm unique. So we've identified that as our way of standing out. We have CPAs, we've got tax associates, we've got amazing people working on for our firm who does do all that really, really great stuff. But then we complement that with engineers and scientists. Our niche, industry that we offer service allows us that ability. So we found our way to separate ourselves from a lot of our competitors. And we're kind of grasping on that as a way to get ahead in the industry. And I think it's working. And that's how we've been able to kind of scale our business.
So it's really like niching down on a particular segment or industry, essentially. And I think that's kind of, I always like to pinpoint the lessons, right, for people. Because sometimes people hear these stories, but they can't always derive the lesson, right? And I think the lesson in that story would be like, hey, the riches are in the niches, something I say often, right? And that's so unique and it's so specialized, but it's allowing you to scale your business because you're serving, who you're serving, the problem you're solving, right? And I think that's so important because I always say, if you go into business to make money, you will get problems. If you go into business to solve problems, you will make money. And it's really simple, but most people don't realize that. And that's what you did. You solved problems now for people and you made a lot of money doing that. So that's awesome.
And it was really challenging. Yeah, it was challenging at first. And you go into these, tax conferences and you go into these, in front of these clients, these large clients, even, medium or small ones. And, I suffer from imposter syndrome, which I think a lot of, business owners do. And especially as females, as women, I think that's very common. And you kind of get in there like, oh my gosh, do I belong here? I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax professional. I'm just a chemist. I'm a scientist. I'm a fraud. Are they going to find me out? Are they going to figure it out? So it's taking me a long time to kind of overcome that. And, it's not even just fake it till you make it. It's a whole different level of that, where you have to own it. You have to come in there like, no, this is my purple cow. Like, this is what makes me awesome at what I do. And what I don't know, I'm going to tell you, I don't know, but I know I've got someone on my staff who can rock that answer and who can like totally kill that answer. And then you have to hire the talent who can actually answer that question and do it really, really well. You can't be afraid to spend the money to make sure you've got someone who can answer that question really well. Because you can't have any gaps in your company to be able to answer that question. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, I love that because that I agree with wholeheartedly. And it's funny because just this week I spoke for a local cosmetology school that my friend owns. She's a prospective EO member because I'm trying to get more women in our chapter just like you are. And one of the things I shared was that it's like I started to talk with how many of us have experienced imposter syndrome? How many of us have experienced fear, anxiety, depression even, right? Like, because it's something that's not talked about enough, especially in business and entrepreneurship. I think most people see it as weakness, right? And they don't want to show weakness or vulnerability as a leader, but vulnerability is a power, actually. It's a strength. And people don't realize that. It's the ability to connect and to empathize with people. And so I love that you share that because it's one thing that I've discovered very, very recently, like within the past 3 months recently, and it's changed my life. So I did Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny in December. And prior to that, I was like a lot of times paralyzed by fear and imposter syndrome. This podcast started shortly after. And I wanted to do this for years. And I was always afraid. I was like, who am I to be sharing these stories? Who am I to share my story? Like, am I qualified enough, And then when I realized it's called it's kind of a mix of Tony Robbins and one of my amazing forum mates. But I came up with the conclusion that when you suffer from self, it's because you are focusing on self. And so what I realized what that means is we suffer from self when we're like, what if I look stupid? What if they judge me? What if whatever, right? It's always about me. Like, what if I don't, what if I'm embarrassed? What if I embarrass myself, right? What if I mess up? But when you shift the perspective to how can I serve? What problem can I solve? And who can I help? And you become more selfless. You're not so self-conscious anymore. It's kind of crazy. But the self-doubt, the anxiety, the depression, the fear, imposter syndrome dissipates and falls away when you stop focusing on yourself. And that's a crazy mind switch that I was like, oh my God, mind blown. All of a sudden, I don't care if I sound stupid, if I have haters, if I have people criticizing me, because I'm like, if this story inspires one woman or one immigrant who was where I was 10, 15, 20 years ago and inspires them, empowers them, educates them so that they go on to scale a 6, 7, 8, 9-figure business, that's worth it. I don't care if I have a pimple on my face, if I have boogers in my nose, if my lipstick on my teeth, or if I sound silly, right? Because it's not about me anymore. It's about them. It's about the person watching and listening. So just
that's
crazy
exactly
lesson.
Right. Yeah. It's insane. And you mentioned your forum mates, and I'm usually the one in my forum meetings. It's pass me the tissues, because I'm the one who's usually and I'm always apologizing. I'm sorry guys, I don't want to be the one crying. I don't want to be, wish I was stronger. And my forum mates are fantastic, and they're always saying vulnerability is good. And I think it's been entrained in my mind, no, that's a sign of weakness. I can't run a business and be, emotional. I can't run a business and be, and show my heart on my sleeve. And it's taken me a long time to realize, that no, maybe it is good. Maybe it's not a terrible thing that's been entrained in my mind, through years and years and years of, put your head down and work and don't let anyone see the real you. So it's taking me a lot to kind of get over this and this imposter syndrome and what's, knock down those walls in my own. It's because you're right. It's your own issues. It's not anyone else's issues. It's absolutely your own issues.
Yeah. And it's I'm the same way. I was raised by immigrant, first generation immigrants. So it's the work harder, no one cares mentality, right? I think that's a lot of immigrants that I've talked to, where it's if your parents came here, they're like, you know how good you have it in America? You have no right to be upset. And so I before I joined EO, I didn't believe in feelings. I was like, what are feelings? You don't need feelings. You just have to work harder. No one cares. Work harder, no one cares. That was my mentality. And then I realized that made me a little bit intimidating and a little bit cold and unapproachable to my team. And so I had pretty bad turnover. I'll admit that. I was the first to I built a great business, but my staff would turn over and over, my team would turn. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with the common denominator is me. It's a blame yourself situation. But why? And I didn't understand, because I was like, I'm giving them all the tools. I'm giving them all the coaching. I'm giving them the playbook. But I realized what I lacked was empathy. What I lacked was that vulnerability. And to them, they're like, I can't just work hard, work hard, no one cares. That was my mentality. But people, if you want to retain and if you want people to be happy and motivated, self-motivated, you need to understand that and have empathy, right? So that's so important. Sorry, I'm something in my throat. Yeah. And I think I also love what you shared about the willingness to spend money, because I think that's another really important lesson. When I mentor a lot of women who are year one or even month one into their business, and they're like, that's expensive, or I don't know if I can afford that. And I'm like, you can't not afford it. Yeah, so one of the questions I want to ask, a lot of people don't realize how long it actually takes to scale to 7 figures, right? They think that starting a business is going to be this overnight success, and it's not that. I think everyone who's done it knows that. Like, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes delayed gratification and embracing that. So how long was your journey from 0 to 7 figures in revenue?
Yeah, so we're DST was a bit different because when so the company I was at previously, I was an independent contractor there, and we were very lucky that we had a lot of clients from that company. I didn't have the same restrictions that a lot of other people had, so we had a significant book of business come over almost immediately with us. So DST hit 7 figures almost in year one. So we were well on our way in year one.
But you were an independent contractor for how long before that? So that's the question I want to ask too.
Independent contractor for I was an independent contractor about 7 or 8 years before that. And I just worked solely for one company, and I had my girls, I have twins, during that time. So I just kind of worked as many hours as I wanted to, worked, few or as many hours, which was great because I could be home with them for a couple of days when they were really, really young infants, get them on the bus or, at daycare in the mornings. It was really, really convenient. But when we started DST, almost immediately we hit $1 million. And then like normal, we had really immediate growth very, very quickly. And it was, oh my gosh, great. This is easy. This is fantastic. And then with turnover, we were really, really busy, servicing client, and was turnover. And then, okay, great. As soon as we kind of hit a plateau, we got really great people. Now we can focus on putting in some really great processes for the people. We can put in, some great performance review. We can put in some great consistency with our deliverables and with how we do what we do, and with, some of the great things that you need to scale properly. People would leave because they weren't in place fast enough. Because, well, trust me, we're going to put in place, things have to calm down a little bit. And then when they left, I'd have to jump back into the business to handle the client work. And it was just this cycle, never ending cycle, right? We were just constantly doing this over and over and over. And then finally it was in 2022, it was almost like stop the madness, right? I have to get off this roller coaster. And even though we were still relatively small, I brought in a full-time HR person to help me with, I need to get a handle on the revolving door of turnover. I need to get a handle on, making sure that people see a career path here. I need to get a handle on making sure that we have performance reviews, and, this is really, truly a good place to work for people. So I want to, make sure this is an attractive place. People can see their futures here. So 2022 was a year that we started investing in people, the year of the people, I kind of call it. And then 2021, we said, great, man, it's the year of our processes. Let's put together really great processes. We can be efficient. We can start putting in, understanding what are our KPIs. We never really tracked that. We never really enforced it. We never really understood what our efficiencies. And this is where, I was showing some frustration because I knew we had the potential, but I didn't know what our baselines were. So this is where, again, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, growing into that confidence, where I can now start saying, no, we need to hit this number because now I know what my benchmark is and I know we can do better. So benchmarking and putting all that stuff in 2022 was kind of very, very important. And that meant understanding we need to have the right people in the right seats. And that all came out of 2022, the year of the people as well. So when people say, how much did you grow last year? I say, man, did we grow? Because you should see the great team we have now. You should see the great processes we have now, the great metrics we have now. That's immeasurable how much we actually grew. Because I think growth doesn't mean just top line revenue or profit margins. I think growth, our team today is, I'm so proud, and I can't stress enough, I'm so proud of our team today, and the mindset, and to hear me say that today compared to the team, that we would have had 2 years ago, it's night and day. I mean, my team today is gelling, they're communicating, they're collaborating. It's so rewarding to get through that. It's almost that example, like where like entrepreneurs or business owners are climbing that mountain, and then they're like so exhausted, and they're just, I'm still gonna, yeah. And if you had just went that little bit more, you would have been at the peak. I feel like we climbed that little bit more, and we're finally at that peak, which feels really, really good. And there's still more to go. And now we're re-energized to go to the next peak, which is so much fun.
I love everything that you shared. And it's so true. Like there's so many, I think, lessons from that, right? The first one I think is, starting from the beginning of you were an independent contractor for 7 years before you started your business. And a lot of people try to jump into business with zero experience. So yes, your business like hit the ground running, but that's because you had 7 years under your belt. And similar to me, like I've done both ways. I have a commercial real estate brokerage firm, and I have a residential real estate brokerage firm. And they had very different trajectories, because on the commercial side, I was a commercial real estate broker for, I think it was like 8 years or something before I started my team and my firm. So it like we easily doubled revenue, because it was all based on my experience. I was boots on the ground. I was in the business. I knew all the systems. I just needed to create the systems and processes for it. Similar to you, like I had the turnover challenge, and it's so crazy. Like when you start hearing these stories from people, and I think that's one of my favorite lessons from EO is that a lot of these problems are industry agnostic, right? The problems you shared, I had the same things where I was like, I lacked processes, I didn't have systems, I had high turnover, and I realized it was a me problem and I need to slow down and fix this. But it was like, go, I don't have time to do this, right? And then I realized it where I was like, okay, this can't continue because this turnover is kind of crazy. On the like opposite side, I have a residential real estate brokerage. I've never actually practiced residential. Like my business partner has. So we're 50-50 partners. Her background's in residential, mine's in obviously commercial. We're both investors as well. So I've invested in residential, but I've never been an agent. And so I didn't necessarily know all the stuff. And so that one was a much slower growth where we're like, okay, I'm not sure. And so it took a lot longer to get to profitability. So one side, profitable almost immediately. The other side, we had great revenue top line, but not profitable for a number of years until we got profitable. And so knowing that and hearing your story, I think it's like, if you're someone who needs to get profitable, go start a business in the field that you already have experience in. Like for you had 7 years of experience. For me, it was the commercial real estate. And so interestingly enough, my commercial real estate business basically like allowed me to do the capital calls for the residential real estate brokerage that was cash flow negative. And so I made profit here, used that money, you funneled it to the other one to bootstrap a second business. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And then you understood like what you had to triage, right? Like for me, like you had to just triage. It'd be great if you could do it all. It'd be great if you could handle like, I know I have these 7 things I have to work on or 5 things, but you physically can't. You can't spread yourself that thin to work on all those things. So what's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck? What's the most important thing today that I can work on? Focus on that. Good. Check that next. And then understand, I mean, for me, I really wanted to like, in my mind, I'm always, the way I described it to when I brought on my HR person, the way I described it is, I'm running a marathon at top speed. And I find that even though I'm saying everything to everybody, I'm already like on mile 50. By the time I'm running past my team who are standing there and I'm going, wait, and I'm already gone. And my team is going, what did she just say? And I need you as the HR person to say, Diane, slow down, take a water break. Because I don't think your team heard you. And I'm getting angry. Going, why didn't they hear me? I just said that. Why didn't I said it? I said it 6 times. Why didn't they hear me? So, for me, it was, okay, I got to spend that money. Going back to like spending money, it was important. We were small. It was going to eat into profits. But it was like, I see the value of having that person who's going to be the filter between my brain, and because I'm going a mile a minute on this marathon, who's going to tell me, stop, slow down. Let's write this down. Let's put it down on a piece of paper, and let's make sure that our team hears it, because that's what our team needs. And that was worth a huge, like, that's like, it's so valuable to have that person hold me, like, give me the bottle of water, sit down, take a break, drink this cup of water, make sure the team can hear you. And I can keep on running, and then she's making sure that the team understands the message. And that's huge. And that's not only just on the HR side, the people side, but then it was on the process side and the sales and marketing side and all those important pieces and it takes time. And I'm just like, why isn't it happening faster? And, you know, I've got now my leadership team saying, slow down. You just operate at a much faster speed than everyone else. You just need to slow down. And that's what I needed. And that costs money and that takes time. And that's okay. They're reminding me of that, which is huge.
Yeah, it's so funny. Every time I connect with EOers, I'm like, this is my tribe. This is my people, right? Because again, it's industry agnostic, because I'm the same way where even talking to my husband, I'm like, this isn't this. Like, he works with me now. He came from the military though. And he's like, you just told me like 20 things. He's like, what do you actually want me to do? I was like, all of them. And he's like, I was like, no, just like, you know, just, you could do this and this. And I explained it. And he's like, slow down. What do you actually want me to do first? Tell me that first, and then tell me the rest. And I'm like, and I get so frustrated. I'm like, but it's the entrepreneur mind, right? That's why we are entrepreneurs though. When our mind goes, because every time I speak to EO people, we get each other. We're like, do this, and they're like, that's great, I love it. And then when you talk to like anyone else on my team, other than my business partner who's the same way, and we're like, everyone's like, what are you guys saying? How did you like just come up with 20 different things? And what do I execute first? How do I do this? I don't know where to go. Like, what's the priority, right? And I was like, okay, do this first. Here's that. Like, and then I have to like slow down and kind of explain and be like, okay, and here's how you do it. And here's the way. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it's so easy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, just do it. Hello, I told you, just do it. And then because it's a very, I think, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's this entrepreneur thing, but in my mind, it's like, but I've said it. Like, why can't you just go and do it? And for me, it's so bizarre. Yeah. And yeah, surrounding myself in EO has made me realize, like, oh man, not everyone thinks like me.
Yes.
That was weird. Like, it's really made me realize, because I just thought this was normal.
Yes,
like, I just thought everything that happens in here was kind of normal. Yeah. And I realized it's not.
It's not.
And it was only through these discussions that I realized it's not.
It's not.
And I'm not normal.
It's not, but it's a gift. And I think there's a documentary on Bill Gates, Bill's Brain, that my husband made me watch. And it kind of started to make sense, where it's like Bill's brain, like billionaire, you know, Bill Gates. And it's like the way his brain operates and the way most of us entrepreneurs, our brains operate is not like most people. And I think it's such a blessing and a gift, and to realize that, like, it's a little bit ADD or ADHD, but in the best way possible. It's kind of like, I think the analogy I use is like, our brains are like a Ferrari or like a Tesla. It's like 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds, right? But a lot of people are driving like a 0 to 60 in like 5, 10, whatever seconds, right? And we're like, why are you not keeping up? Like, we're like, boom, off the line. Like, I drive a Tesla. I'm like, when the light turns green, I'm like, boom. And it's like, no, these cars are all behind me. And so it's recognizing that and being self-aware, I think, is really important. And I don't know if you have any, but one of the books that have really made a difference for me was 12 and a Half with Gary Vee. One of my girlfriends gave me the book, and there was a thing in there called kind candor, I believe was the term he used. But it's like learning to kindly share feedback and be candid about feedback with your team. Because what I used to do, I don't know if you did this too, but this is a big mistake I did, where if people messed up, I just go in there and fix it for them. I'd fix the mistake. I'd be like, oh no, sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Client, my team messed up, but don't worry, I'm here to save the day. Instead of being like, hey, client gave me this feedback, you made this mistake, it's okay, it's part of the learning process, here's how you can fix it, and here's how you can avoid the mistake the next time. And then I'd get so frustrated because I was always going there fixing everyone's mistakes, and then they'd get annoyed because they think like they weren't good enough or I wasn't trusting them. And so that was part of, I realized my turnover was because I did that to people, and also part of my frustration of like, why can't anyone do things right? And I'm like, because I never gave them a chance. And so kind candor is a term from, so Gary Vee 12 and a Half, I'll link it. I have like an essentials book list on Amazon that I share with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I'll link it below in the caption of this video. Yeah, I'll share it with you. Yeah, essential books that I recommend, but that's one of them. But do you have any like books or lessons that you think like a newer entrepreneur would be like, you have to read this? Other than Traction, of course. We always say Traction, but anything else?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's doing Traction. Well, right now I'm reading Grit.
Okay.
By Angela Duckworth. That's the one I'm into right now. I realized through EO, through my forum mates, like there's a lot of my forum mates who read a lot. I'm just like, where do you find the time? So I'm just so impressed at people. I used to love to read, and I do love reading. And I am picking it up now that like business seems to kind of be calming down. I've got a great team. I'm finding the time to read again. So I've got like all this wish list of books. I did the EO Harvard Business School, and what I really loved at the end of that, everyone went around the room and was giving recommendations of books. So I've got like this page of scribbles of books that are on my wish list, and I'm so excited. But I think the biggest advice I can give anybody, it's something I lost along the way and I found it again. And I'm so excited. It's like, trust your gut, trust your intuition, trust your gut. If something smells off, it probably is. And whether that's like, know your numbers, and if your numbers seem off, like just like, and don't be, kind of to your point, don't be like, oh, I'll just fix it, just give it to me. Don't attack, because I think in the past I would be in attack mode when the numbers seem off somewhere. Just very calmly say, okay, we'll take it offline. Can you just run me that report and I'll take a look at it? And inherently that, that person or whoever, whether it's a client work or a client or whatever, internally would come back with that report. You'll find the problem. That person will find the issue, or you'll be able to see it and give that feedback back. I mean, we're all in our businesses, around our businesses, because we know our industry, we know our businesses. So if something's off, trust it. And then when it comes to people, I think I've just been gaslit a couple of times. So now I'm always trust but verify. Yeah, and people have asked me too, like, do you feel that you're too open? Does that last time you got burned change you from being like that vulnerable we talked about earlier? Do you feel you're going to be less open? And my response is always, I probably should be. Like this time probably should teach me a lesson, but I won't, because this is just kind of who I am. Like, I'm going to continue to be open. I'm going to continue to be authentic. I'm going to continue to be transparent. But yeah, I probably should stop because I got burned. But then that's also having the right people in the right seats, right? If that's the kind of person who is going to be like that, then I don't want them anywhere near my company or anyone near my team or anywhere near me. So I'm learning that. Again, that's all part of growth, part of leadership and part of growth. And having the right people around in your company to say that's a bad egg, that person doesn't fit within our culture, and having the people within your team speak up to say that person isn't holding our values and our culture, and not be afraid of doing that. Like psychological safety at work, to speak up and say that is something that we have now at our firm. Really, really, I think done a really good job of putting that in place. And that's a really cool place to finally get to. So those are my say, trust your gut, trust your instinct, know your numbers. And if something feels off, it probably is. And just ask for the clarification to dig deep. Don't feel if you feel you're being gaslit, you probably are.
Yeah. I love all of those lessons. They're great. Like asking for the clarification, because I think that's another thing I hear a lot from newer entrepreneurs who is like, I'm not confrontational. I'm like, you got to learn to communicate and stop thinking it's a confrontation. Like, changing your inner dialogue is going to be huge. Like, you're not trying to be confrontational. You're just trying to communicate openly and candidly with your team. And that's a huge part of leadership, and it's a huge part of entrepreneurship. It's a huge part of business. Like, if you can't communicate candidly and openly, then you can't be in business. That's really the gist of it. And so you can't say, I don't like confrontation, right? So I love that, the asking for clarification and being willing and able to do that. And the gut instinct, it's like, I'm the same way. I had like great gut instinct. Now, again, I lost it for a little bit. I felt like same thing. And I got it back. And so like having that and trusting that and being grateful for that, like for sure. And then the trust but verify, again, like so many similarities when you're sharing, I'm like, oh my God, same. Like where I've been burned a few times, and people are like, how, like, they're like, aren't you hurt? Or isn't that painful? Or how are you okay? Like, they're like, I would not be able to deal with it so like easily and with grace like you do. And I'm like, this isn't the first time. And like, hopefully, I'll learn my lesson, but it's not going to change my character. Like, I'm the type of person I'm going to be authentic to me. And what's authentic to me is to lead with love and kindness and empathy. But now I also, same thing where it's like trust but verify. Like I'm a little bit more like, I think, discerning. Whereas before I just kind of openly trust and I just assumed everyone was like me. I thought like everyone's like kind and loving and good and operates with integrity and ethics, right? And I just think that's like the norm of the world. And I think honestly, I still believe the majority of people are generally good and kind, but there are people that, and I don't think it's their intention, but they have a lot of traumas, I say, and it's like they haven't healed. It's like, I don't think of it like as vindictive. I think of it as you need to heal and you need to grow and you need to get over your traumas because you're displacing that negatively out in the world because you haven't healed what's within. And so I don't have this like anger or animosity. I have this like, I feel bad for you. Like, I hope you heal and I hope you like grow, because continuing to operate the way you do and like unethically screwing people over, being selfish, it's only gonna like harm you, because the laws of karma and the energetics and vibrational frequencies of the universe, you might not believe it, and this is down a little bit of a spirituality rabbit hole, but it's kind of like gravity, right? You might not be able to see gravity, and even if you say you don't believe in gravity, it still exists. We live on Earth. Gravity is like part of our life. Same kind of thing with karma, vibrational frequencies and energies. Like if you are that kind of person who puts that negativity, who screws people over, who operates unethically, like that's going to come back tenfold. And the flip side is true. If you're the type of person like you and I, you know, who are putting good out in this world, genuinely wanting to help and to serve people, that also comes back tenfold. And I know I've experienced it firsthand, where I'm like, sometimes I'll just get these blessings in life where I'm like, thank you, universe. Thank you, God. Like whatever you believe in. I'm like, that was really weird, but thank you. Like, this is awesome. Like, I just got like a multi-million-dollar client where I don't know how that came out, but it's amazing, right? Like someone will just call me with like, oh, a friend of mine actually just like, hey, I want to sell my house. And it's like a 2.7 something $million listing. And I just gave it to my team because I don't compete with my team. And so I was just like, hey, we have this great listing. I'm going to help you guys out behind the scenes because it's my friend, but it's your listing. And it's like, that kind of stuff, but it comes back because you're giving and you're operating with integrity and ethics. So
yeah, you know what? And it's funny because like I've had people say to me in the past, oh, you're just lucky. Oh, you're just lucky. And
no,
I don't believe in luck. I believe like you work your ass off.
Yes.
And you bust your butt to make the opportunities to present in front of you that make you appear lucky. But it's all about the strategic decisions that you make, and it's all about the effort and the hard work and the blood and the sweat and the sleepless nights and the tears and everything and the sacrifices to put you in front of those opportunities that others perceive as luck, because they're not willing to to make the hard work. So, I mean, it's tough. That, like, as you know, like deciding to start a business, deciding to work, you're putting in 30, 40-hour days, let alone 40-hour weeks. You're putting in like sleepless nights. Like my forum mates will tell you, like the tears almost month after month of going in there of like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm frustrated for this. I'm frustrated for that. This isn't working out. And then now to come in and it's like, oh my gosh, like knock on wood, like this actually seems to be going okay. And it feels so good when you're on the other side of it. You're still like, don't get your eye off the ball, right? Because you're still always need to be agile and adjust, and you can always fine tune. Anyone who thinks that, great, now I can coast, that's a very dangerous position to be in as well. You always want to keep on striving to do better for your clients, for yourself, for your team, for your firm, for whatever. But it's not luck. It's hard work.
It is.
But it's rewarding. Yeah. Hopefully you can have a little fun while you do it.
And you create your luck. That's exactly what it is. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Again, where, one of my core values from Traction, if you're a new entrepreneur, you have to read the book Traction. It's on my Amazon Essentials list. I'm going to link that. I link that in all my YouTube video captions, but Traction is important because step one is getting clear on what are your core values and what is your mission and what's your purpose, right? And one of my core values is extreme personal accountability. And I got that from my forum, actually, because we were talking about it. We're like, this is a trait that we all have that got us to this table of being 7-figure founders. We take extreme personal accountability. It's never like, woe is me, or oh my God, I'm a woman. Oh my God, I'm a minority. Oh my God, I'm a child of immigrants. Oh my God, I grew up in a poor family, right? It's like, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna thrive in spite, I'm gonna thrive in spite of this, despite this. Like, it's not gonna be an excuse. And I think a lot of people who don't get where they are, they don't get where they want to be, is because they live in that place of like, oh, you're just lucky. Oh, you just have great opportunities. Oh, it's because of this, because of that. No, we created our luck. We created those opportunities. We went after it and we got it. And so I think that's the difference of like what you're saying, like, just going after it. Let's do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't think it, like, no one's going to hold me back. And that's, a message for my daughters. Like, you can do whatever the heck you want. No one's going to hold you back. The sky's your limit.
Yes, exactly.
And, I'm going to be there to support you, and to push you because I know there's potential in you. And even with my team, like the potential, I'm hard on you because I know you all have so much potential. So yeah, I'm the tough mother, right? I'm the tough love, because I know you all have so much potential, and I'm going to congratulate you, and I'm going to praise you, and I'm going to send so much positivity your way when you do like a job well done, and I'm going to coach you when I think that there's gaps, but because there's so much potential for us to do so much together as a group, and it's a lot of fun to do that.
It is, and I think it's such a blessing to do what you do, and to do what we can do is like to be that like light and show people that it's possible and push them. And it's like, I don't know if you know Hazel Ortega, she's an EO member as well. Hazel calls it a pushy angel, like being that pushy angel for people. Because I think especially with women and with immigrants and minorities, what I've realized is they're their own worst enemy. And I'll be the first to admit, I was there. I was like, it's all the limiting, it's what goes on between here, right? Like in my head, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if, or like these beliefs of like, oh, you have to you have to compromise your ethics or your integrity to get to $1 billion status, right? Or things like stupid limiting beliefs that I held for many years as excuses because I suffered from fear and imposter syndrome. And then I realized money doesn't change who you are. Money allows you and amplifies who you are. It allows you to be more of who you are. And so like, I've always been like a very giving, I love giving things, like it's just my nature, right? Like, and so it's like, oh, I like to give like little cute gifts when I was like younger, but now like, okay, now that I have the money, I can give my like girlfriends like bigger gifts, like, like Gucci and like Hermes and like fun stuff. And I love that kind of stuff. Like, I can afford it. Or like my mom, like I bought myself a Tesla. So she's like, can I get one? I was like, okay, for Mother's Day, you can get a Tesla, or for like either for Mother's Day or, your birthday, depending on what they have in inventory. Right. But I was like, I'll buy you a Tesla, Mom. But it's like being able to do that. Right. And it's like having that freedom to be like, yeah, I can buy my mom a Tesla. That's so freaking awesome. So it doesn't change who I am. And I built my business operating with ethics, with integrity, and never compromising my morals. Actually, the whole reason my business partner and I built the brokerage firm is because of that. So we're like, we want to provide a firm with just what we wish we had when we started the business. We want one that's like centered around collaboration, and the culture is all about like having empathy, leading with love, being kind. There's no cattiness. Like we have a no assholes, no cattiness rule, and we have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to like unethical behavior. And most real estate firms, it's like sell. Like I don't care. Like what you have to do, just sell. And we're like, F that. Like literally, like I'm like, I have no filter, but I'm like literally like F that. I was like, I don't care. Like I'd rather you close a few less deals, but actually do what's best for your client. I don't want the best salesperson. I want you to solve problems. I want you to help people. I want you to focus on serving. And if you're that kind of person who cares more about who you're helping and how you're serving, then you're going to be like the kind of person who I want on my team. But if you're not, I don't care if you do 30 million sales volume or something crazy like that. I don't want you on my team. And I've said no to people like that. And people are like, why would you say no to a top agent? Like, isn't being a brokerage owner all about a numbers game? And I was like, not to me and not to my business partner. We don't actually need this business to pay our bills. My bills get paid from my real estate investment portfolio and from my other businesses. And I'm very fortunate that I built it that way. But this brokerage, it's a passion project, what I call it. Purpose-driven passion project, and purpose over profits is what it's about. So,
yeah.
operating from that.
Yeah, well, integrity is one of our core values. That's exactly what we've got. That's one of our exact core values. And it's like, and the example I always give is like, it's not easy to do the right thing sometimes because, you always eke out a little bit more money and a little bit more, billings, a little more fees. But we need to do everything we can with integrity. That's it. Our clients deserve it. Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. Internally, we deserve it to each other, and externally, we deserve it to our clients. So, yeah, and that's how we've always done it from day one. It's always about integrity.
It is, yeah. And I have these sayings now. It's like, care the most to close the most, or serve, don't sell. Because people are like,
I love that.
And it's true. It's like, there's I always say there's an analogy of like two ways to get to success, right? There's the people that unfortunately they do about the bad way, I call it, right? But it's like you have a boulder, you can push it up the hill when you're like just chasing money, you'll get there eventually. Or you can push it down the hill, like if you want to move a boulder. Pushing it down the hill, gravity works for you. It's very easy. Everything's in flow state and the universe just aligns. And when you're in flow state and you push the boulder down the hill, that's because you're focusing on your purpose and your passion and how you can solve problems and how you can like actually do good and not just focusing on the profits. And that's, again, like something I really appreciate about my business partner too, where we're both on the same page. We're like, how is this actually helping people? Yes, it has tremendous profit potential, but what's the problem we're solving and how are we helping people? So every endeavor that we work on together, we're expanding into education actually, because we've built. Yeah, so we've, and it's it's a lot like solving problems, right? This business is not like, oh, I want to start another business. It was like, I had so many EO women reach out to me and like, how do you build an 8-figure real estate portfolio? And then I was like, here, and here. And they're like, can you create a course on it? And I was like, I guess. I was like, why? They're like, well, we want to learn. And I was like, you guys run to this. They're like, we don't know how to invest in real estate though. Like you do. And so we're actually going to launch a course on how to scale to an 8-figure real estate portfolio. Because my family and I, like, we scaled to 20 million. And then my business partner, I think, is 60 million, her family portfolio. And so we're going to teach women how to build wealth through investing in real estate. So it's called Real Rich Women, and it's something we're working on, yeah. Yeah, but it's, again, solving problems. Like, how do we solve problems, right? It's like organic. It was just like, I had so many EO women I met at different events. They're like, what do you do? And I'd be like, I have a real estate portfolio, I have this and that. And they're like, can you teach me how to build the real estate portfolio you built? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like,
oh, yeah. I love it. And I've always said, like, it's the power of EO women.
Yes.
I mean, I've met so many incredible women through EO. And the EO men are great too, but the EO women are just phenomenal.
My favorite.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. I love everyone. Yeah, they're so great.
I know. Yeah, that's my favorite. So it's like, it's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and then let's see. Oh, I love the right people, right seats that you mentioned. And I think that's important again for new entrepreneurs. Huge. I'd love for you if you can elaborate a little bit on that, because I know I'd say I fucked up a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the right people on the right seats. And that's an expensive and time and money is expensive lesson that I learned. So I don't know if you have an experience share around that, like that you can share with people.
Yeah. And, I think for me, everyone I've had has always, they were the right people at the right time, at that time. They're people who I needed at the time, whether it was just like the market was really hard to find people, or I just needed people because of whatever the circumstance was. So, I mean, they all served a purpose, like, and I also have like that saying, who got you here, what got you there won't get you, what got you here won't get you there. So I'm a firm believer of, that kind of concept as well. I think there's a book perhaps titled that as well. So I'm a firm believer of that. So everyone, I've for the most part really enjoyed everyone who's come and gone from DST. There's been a few who, haven't left so amicably, but for the most part, the people who have come have contributed. Everyone who's come has contributed in some way, whether good or bad, right? Really great contributions or bad, as in, hey, I've learned a lesson, I won't do that again, kind of thing. But the people, who we have now are, we've learned, and I think the market conditions also have a play in that too, where, we've got people who are coming with we're bringing them in with and setting the expectations. Because another thing I've learned, this was not just necessarily with business, but I think in personal as well. I don't have the right to resent you if I don't set the expectations at the front. So I think that's something too that I've kind of learned that over the past, say, year or so. And I'm truly practicing that, value, like core value for myself. So we're bringing in people who are truly coming in. Like I've felt in the past, I was always held hostage by my employees just because the market was very hot. And I felt as, almost like my HR, we've had this discussion over, previously where some of the people who had worked for me almost came in like as if they were doing a favor for me. It's because the market was hot and it was very bizarre. The people who we've got now, the expectation is like, hey, you're coming in at this level. The expectation is you're going to come and make recommendations to our process, to our deliverables, to our, the way we do what we do. Because you're coming in with some experience. You're coming in with, X, Y, Z. And they are actually doing that within the first 30 days. They're coming in, looking at everything, soaking everything in, and they're saying, hey, what you got is great. And I understand the reasoning behind why you're doing what you've done. And I think we can do this to improve. So I'm laying the expectations out at the front end, and they're actually coming back with those suggestions. And that's something I've never had before. And I don't know if I've never had it before because I never clearly laid out those expectations, although in my mind I have, but it might be just because I'm running the marathon at 50 miles an hour. Or if it's because I just had the wrong people in those seats. So it's a little bit of both. So now I do truly feel we've got the right people in the right seats. We've got great training. Like we're actually mapping out a training plan for 30 days for new people coming in. We've got a 4-week training plan. And we have people who are truly willing to participate in putting that together. Whereas in the past, we had people who were, well, it's not my job. Why am I doing this? And we didn't have that kind of teamwork truly coming in. So I don't know what really shifted. I think it's just the people we're bringing in are just different mindset. Whether it's market, whether it's us just increasing our expectations, laying it out more upfront. But something truly has shifted for us. And maybe it's just like, because we are following kind of that traction type, we're setting out our core values, we're setting the bar at the upfront, and we're truly understanding what we need, what we want. We're not feeling like we're being held hostage, and we've got this mutual respect, like from the team, from us, leadership team, and we're just feeling this really, really great, relationship. Upwards, downwards, sideways, everywhere. It's funny, we did our performance review last about 3 weeks ago. One of the team members used an analogy, and it got me thinking, the way that he described it got me thinking, as a chemist, got me thinking of graphite and diamond. So he was making a comment, because they're both made out of carbon. So he made this comment, like, before, our team was always looking out for just themselves or just their department. They weren't looking at everyone else. So they were always just looking out for like their own individual needs, or if it suited them with maybe one or two other people. And now it's different because everyone's looking at themselves, their department, the other department, or the client or the firm. So it's all these different layers. So I came back to him. It's almost like carbon. And if you look at graphite is made out of carbon, and so is diamond. And graphite, which is like what they use in pencils. And if you think graphite is very brittle. So if you hit graphite from one side, it shatters. It's only bonded in one direction. But diamond is also made out of carbon. And the difference between the two is diamond, which is the strongest substance. As you know, it can, cut glass. Diamond is bonded not only in this direction and the horizontal direction, but it's also bonded in vertical directions. It's got kind of multiple bonds in every direction. So if you hit a diamond in any direction, nothing happens to it. And I said, that's kind of what I'm envisioning when you're making this analogy, where not only is the individual person in our team care about themselves, but they care about their neighbor. They care about the other department. They care about the client, which is upwards. They care about the firm. They care about profitability. They care about... So they're forming all these bonds in multiple directions beyond just themselves and their immediate, neighbor. So if you hit it from any direction, it's super, super strong. And every person we're bringing in is an extra clink to that really, really strong bond. And we're just forming a much bigger, stronger diamond. And I love that analogy. I share that with the team And I said, this isn't me, guys. This is one of you. This is one of your team members who are making this description. And if we finally have a bunch of diamonds, right, forming this big, massive diamond. So it's the right people in the right seats. And it's all about having that team feeling like they're part of a big diamond, which is great.
I love that. I love that analogy. And it's actually when recently we did our chapter retreat last month, and it reminds me, what you shared reminds me of the talk of one of the speakers. It was a collaboration with the San Diego EO chapter and ours. And there's a guy named Jeremy Poinstein, I think is his name. He's a blind golfer, which is kind of crazy. But his talk is on alone we are limited and together we are limitless. And it's exactly what you're sharing, which is that like that mindset and that mentality and that like concept. And it's a truth. It's a fact. It's not a belief really. It's a fact that when we work together, we are limitless. When we recognize our strengths and our weaknesses and ask for help, and also provide help and see the bigger picture and understand that we are all interconnected in some way, as a community, as humanity, but definitely as a business and a team in your company. And so it's like having that sense of camaraderie and community is huge. And it helps everyone. Like a rising tide lifts all boats, and we rise by lifting others are two of my favorite sayings. And it's so true. And I've, again, experienced it firsthand. And I'm living proof of it. And I think you are too, for what you're sharing. And I think that's such an important lesson for anyone who's newer on their entrepreneur journey, to recognize that. To recognize like it's hard to ask for help. It's hard. But business isn't easy, right? And so when you have to do the hard things. And so I love that what you shared. And it's so true, the mindset. And it's funny, like I feel like we're on such a similar path, because literally like everything in my team is similar, where it's like, I don't know what shifted, but like, it's like everything's in flow state right now. It's like, I feel like the team is so cohesive. There's this camaraderie, there's this collaboration, where similar to you, like I had this turnover, I had this struggles, I have all this frustration prior, but I also recognize the same thing. Like I can't be resentful if I didn't communicate my expectations. If I didn't set the boundaries and the precedent, if I didn't create the SOPs and they don't know, they can't read my mind. And I think that's another thing that it's a very like humbling thing or vulnerable thing to share. Like I fucked up as a leader, and I admit that. I'm like, I messed up, but I'm going to fix that. And I'm not going to repeat my mistake. So I love that you shared that. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Yeah. And yeah, you have to learn from the past in order to be better in the future. And that's one of our core values as well, is like taking ownership. And one of our kind of our statements under that is, when we apologize immediately when one of us makes a mistake, because we're human. And as long as we recognize that, yeah, we're all human. If you make a mistake, like we respect everyone's diversity, we respect each other, and we just apologize if we make a mistake.
Exactly.
And we learn from it.
Yeah. And recognizing also what you said, I'm again, like, I feel like we're just like kindred spirits in that regard. Like I always appreciate the people who have come, but also the people who have left. And I say, there's a saying, it's like people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And the people who have left, they were there for the right reason at the right time. But it's like, no hard feelings. I wish you well. And honestly, a lot of them, it's like, I wish you well and I wish you heal. Because it's not necessarily like, I don't have any hate or animosity towards you. But a lot of times it's when people aren't self-aware, or they haven't done the inner work and really invested that time into their mindset. And I'll be the first to admit, I was there. I burned a lot of bridges and I messed up a lot because I was emotionally immature, and I was so driven by ego and arrogance when I was younger. And EO really helped me realize like how to be more self-aware, how to be more like get rid of my ego, right? How to really lead with love and empathy and be humble and understand what I don't know. And I think earlier on, ironically, it's like the people who are newer, like, are usually the most arrogant. I was that one of those people. I was very arrogant when I was early on. And then as I continued on my journey, it's a very humbling experience. And I realized how much I don't know. And I started to really, dial down that ego and get rid of it. And so I think that's
peel away the layers, right? Yeah.
That's such an important lesson for new entrepreneurs. Like, don't think you know it all, and be coachable, be ready, like be willing to like seek help, ask for it and take it. Because if you're new on your journey, like It's very different. And it's like my mentor I found through EO, actually. I don't know if you know Dr. K. She's amazing. She's a 3-time 8-figure founder, a woman. She's in leadership roles in EO, but it's like I look to her, right? And the reason she's willing to invest the time and energy into coaching me and a few other women that she coaches and helps out of the goodness of her heart is because she's like, we're coachable. We do the things that we say we're going to do, and we're grateful, and we're not like pushing back on things. We're like, we actually listen, and we're actually grateful for it. And it's not like this arrogance of like, oh, who are you to tell me, right? It's not very gestalt or whatever, right? Like we agreed on this coaching program. We're like, tell us straight up. Like, we don't care if it's not an experience here. Like, just tell us straight up, right? And so she does that, but we're like, that's why it continues on. And because my goal is to scale to 8 figures next. And then I'm like, I have a self-made billionaire in 8 years is my goal. So I'm 35 now. By the time awesome. I'm 43, I want to be a self-made billionaire. So.
Oh, you'll get there.
Yes.
Every confidence you'll get there. That'd be exactly. So cool.
Yeah. But it's also just going back to what we said earlier, to serve, right? It's not for me. I don't need that money for myself, but I do need that money to really, I have my Female Founders Foundation. I want to take that national and then global. I want to help women become self-made millionaires. And so that money allows me to provide the resources and the connections that they need to do that. And so when it's greater than yourself, you'll power through. When it's just for you, it's exactly. Like what I need. Like I live comfortably. I have enough for myself, but it's greater than myself now. It's a fucking movement. I love it.
That's right. That's so awesome. That's inspiring. That's fantastic.
Thank you for being a part of my movement, because this podcast is part of that. It's showing women that people like you and I can do this shit. I'm sorry, I curse a lot. I'm from New York. Absolutely. I get it beeped out.
So, no, you know what? So do I. I'm like I'm holding my tongue. This whole hour now, I'm holding my tongue. So yeah. No, this is great. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for your time. And
thank you.
And then I'll ask you for some of your, social media, so that we'll drop it in the caption below. That way people can reach you on whatever it is you're on, LinkedIn, Instagram, or your website. And people can keep in touch. Just check the caption below.
That would be great.
And if you have any questions for Diane, comment on this video and I'll reach out to her. We can always do a short on it for YouTube, or we can do a follow-up if there are enough questions. So thank you again, Diane, for your time.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's so wonderful getting to know you and how much we have in common.
I know. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.